I wasn't supposed to stay the night. That was never part of the plan. I was just passing through town visiting my mom and thought I'd stop by to see him, my oldest friend. We grew up side by side. Treehouses and scraped knees. Bike rides and sleepovers. Back when we were kids and none of this tension existed. But the rain came out of nowhere. Sheets of it, heavy and relentless, turning the streets into rivers. He looked out the window, then back at me with that little half-smile he always does when he's trying not to look concerned. "You're not driving in that." And just like that, I was staying the night. His apartment was small. A bachelor kind of place, clean but bare. One bed, no couch. I offered to sleep on the floor, joked about it even, but he just shook his head and said, "Don't be ridiculous." And so I climbed into his bed. Fully clothed. Blanket pulled awkwardly between us like a makeshift wall. I faced the window. He faced the wall. And I told myself to fall asleep. But the rain kept whispering. And the silence between us wasn't silence at all. It was full of breath and heat, and something else neither of us said out loud. The space between our bodies was barely a few inches, but it felt like 1,000 unspoken things. And I realized I wasn't tired at all. He shifted once, then went still. I heard his breath catch for half a second, like he was trying to calm his own heartbeat. Maybe I imagined it. Or maybe I was too tuned into every tiny movement. The warmth of his body radiated through the blanket. I could feel the edge of his foot brushing mine. Not touching exactly, just close. Close enough to burn. And suddenly, every childhood memory we'd ever shared felt like a setup for this impossible moment. I tried to keep my breathing steady. Tried not to move. But the silence between us was alive. Heavy. Buzzing. Like the air before lightning strikes. My heart was beating so hard it echoed in my ears. I wondered if he could hear it too. I wondered if he was pretending to sleep just like I was. I shifted slightly just to give my back a rest, but when I did, my hip brushed his. Just a whisper of contact, like an accident that didn't feel accidental. He didn't move. Didn't say a word. But I felt the stillness in him change. He was holding his breath now too. The blanket slid down slightly, and I could feel the heat of his skin through his t-shirt. I wasn't cold, but my arms broke into goosebumps. My pulse throbbed in my wrists. I closed my eyes and pretended it meant nothing. But I knew. Something was happening between us. In that quiet, dark space where childhood ends and something else begins. Minutes passed. Or maybe longer. Time didn't feel real anymore. Just the soft rhythm of rain and breath and whatever this was between us. I thought of all the times we'd been this close before. As kids. As teens. Nothing had ever happened. Nothing could happen. He was my friend. My safe place. But now? Now my skin ached where his body radiated warmth, and my mind was spiraling in ways it never had before. I turned slightly slowly like I was adjusting in my sleep. My arm brushed his bare skin to bare skin. The contact was small. Innocent. But the way my stomach fluttered. There was nothing innocent about it. Still, we both said nothing. Just two people lying still, pretending not to feel every single nerve catch fire. Then a shift. Subtle but unmistakable. His hand, resting near mine beneath the blanket, moved the slightest bit. Fingers grazing mine. Pausing there. Not grabbing. Not holding. Just being there. An invitation. A question. My breath stuttered in my chest and I didn't move. Didn't pull away. I think he knew then. That I wasn't asleep. That neither of us were. The air felt charged like the moment right before a kiss you know you shouldn't want. I didn't know what would happen next. But I knew the pretending was starting to fall apart. His fingers didn't retreat. They stayed close, breathing against mine, warm, patient, trembling just a little. And then I did the thing I told myself I wouldn't. I turned fully toward him. Not suddenly. Not with intention. Just slow, cautious. Like I was letting my body admit something my words still couldn't. Our eyes didn't meet, not yet. But now we were face to face. Inches apart. His chest rising and falling just as unevenly as mine. The blanket had slipped lower. Our arms were close, our knees barely brushing. The air was thick with everything we weren't saying. I could see his lashes in the faint light, fluttering like he was still trying to decide whether to keep pretending. But I saw the truth in the way his mouth parted. Like he wanted to speak but didn't dare. I whispered, "Are you awake?" A breath. A pause. Then softly, "Yeah." That single word cracked something open in me. It felt like falling. Not off a cliff, but into something slow and warm and terrifyingly real. My fingers brushed his again, and this time I didn't pull away. He moved closer, just a fraction, like his body was listening more than his brain. His hand found the small of my back, tentative and feather-light, and every muscle in me tightened with the sudden electricity of it. I didn't know who leaned in first. Maybe both of us. Maybe it was inevitable. But when our lips finally met, it was quiet and slow, like we were both afraid the moment would disappear if we moved too fast. And still not a single word. Just the sound of rain and breath, and two people forgetting why they ever drew a line between them. The kiss deepened, not in speed but in weight. Like everything unspoken between us had finally found its language. His hand, still resting on my back, pulled me just enough that our bodies met. No space. No more pretending. I felt the shape of him, solid, familiar in a way that suddenly felt brand new. My hands found his shoulders, then his neck, tracing the warmth of his skin, feeling his breath stutter against my mouth. It was slow, almost reverent, like we were both afraid to break it. Afraid that if we moved too quickly, it would all vanish like a dream. His fingers curled into my hair and I shivered. Not from cold, but from the rush of being wanted in a way that had nothing to do with words. We paused, foreheads touching, eyes closed. His breath was shaky like mine. "You okay?" he whispered, barely audible. I nodded. More than okay. But I couldn't speak. The way his hand traced the curve of my waist, the way my legs tangled with his beneath the blanket, it was all too much and not enough. He kissed me again, slower this time, like he wanted to remember it forever. Like he was afraid this night would be the only one. The friction of our bodies beneath that single thin blanket sent heat pulsing through me. I could feel every shift, every breath, every tremble. It wasn't wild. It wasn't rushed. It was quiet and careful and devastatingly intense. And when I looked into his eyes, dark, unsure and aching, I knew he was feeling it too. We weren't just crossing a line. We were burning it down. At some point the rain softened, but we didn't. We stayed there, tangled in each other, whispering touches in the dark. Not rushing. Not naming anything. Just breathing, holding, feeling. It was the kind of closeness that doesn't ask questions. The kind that knows answers don't matter in moments like this. His fingers slid along my spine, lazy and gentle, and I pressed into him without thinking. Not because I wanted more, but because I couldn't stand the idea of less. Eventually sleep pulled at us. But we didn't let go. He stayed wrapped around me like he didn't want the world outside the blanket to exist. Like we were safer in this sliver of night, where time had stopped and everything finally made sense. In the morning we didn't talk about what it meant. We just moved slowly, sharing sleepy glances and soft half-smiles. He made coffee. I folded the blanket. My hands still remembered the heat of his skin. And when I left, neither of us said, "This changes everything." But we both knew. The space between us had changed. Quietly. Permanently. Sometimes the rain doesn't just keep you inside. Sometimes it tells the truth you've been avoiding all along.